Welcome, everyone. This is Sasha with the LCRC. Thank you for joining us for how lawyers can use tech to make more money with our sponsor, CosmoLex, as part of the LCRC Industry Insight Series held every Wednesday. Our speaker today is Erica Birstler. Erica Birstler is the Vice President of CosmoLex, developers of the only fully integrated case management, billing, and complete accounting system specifically designed for law offices. Erica's degree is in business administration, and she has nearly a decade of experience in the legal software industry, catering to the specialized technology needs of small to mid-sized law firms. Erica is passionate about helping legal professionals improve the way their law firms run, and she has given numerous presentations across North America on legal technologies such as law practice technology management, cloud computing, and legal billing and trust accounting compliance to help spread her knowledge. Thank you all for joining us. We'll now begin the webinar.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate you all joining today. So, two of my favorite topics that we'll be covering, which is technology and making money. I do think that definitely in the past year, I think the appreciation for technology has drastically changed, especially for those that may not have embraced it as much in the past. So now we want to figure out, okay, how do we leverage it most effectively in order to grow a business? So what we'll be covering today is, first, we'll start with the foundation of what are law firm operations, just a quick overview of that, because there's a lot that actually contributes in to the success of your business. Then we'll talk about specifically how technology can make you more money. So I think the first thing people think of is, oh, I need more cases to get more money. That's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of things that can directly or indirectly impact your profits as a business. And then we'll talk about how to leverage your tools effectively. So different features or functionality to look for either in your existing technology that you have, or if you're looking for new platforms to utilize, things that may catch your attention of, wow, that might be really useful for this reason. Let me go look for that. So hopefully by the end of the session, you have an idea of ways to either leverage your current tools or new tools more effectively. All right, so first thing we're going to dive into is law firm operations. So in general with law firm activities, I always find it especially helpful to view any business, it's not just law firms, by front office and back office. They have very different types of functionality. The front office is more, just as it implies, it is the front facing of your business. It is what your clients interact with. It is what other businesses interact with. And it has to do with your appointments, your meetings, external meetings, that is, the tasks that you need to complete, communication with your clients. And a lot of that factors into your perception as a business to the outside world. The back office is more just the nitty gritty, the operations. Your clients don't care so much about it. Other businesses don't care so much about it, but it's a way for all of those front office activities to turn into money, profit, or to highlight flags or issues that may be going on. Now, you'll see here, of course, trust accounting is there. That is unique to law firms, and that's where compliance comes into account as well. That can affect you on an even different scale. You know, if you're in non-compliance, that can impact your licensing or your reputation with clients as well. So I think it's important just to kind of course, this isn't all-encompassing. There's so many different activities that a law firm does, but to kind of think of your business as front office versus back office and what's important in each of those buckets. You know, what may be important to your client may be very different than what's important to your bookkeeper, for instance. So now that we've talked about these activities, I'm curious, looking at these different functions, we're going to launch a poll right now. Sasha, if you could do that. What is your current approach to technology? Do you tend to seek a variety of different independent tools that are maybe the best at what they do? So you might have 10 tools that are excellent, but they don't work together. Do you tend to seek the integration approach, finding tools that play nicely with each other, and that's a priority? Do you tend to seek one tool that addresses most of your needs, or do you have no preference? Okay, we should be good now. All right, so as we could see, about 45% of you seek several tools that integrate well with each other, followed by 30% that seek a variety of independent tools that are best at what they do. What's interesting is whenever we talk about technology, and I mentioned this at the start, I wonder if people's answers would have been different in 2019, if your thought process might have been different back then. So, okay, awesome. Thank you for launching that, Sasha. So keep that in mind too. There are pros and cons to every different setup. It really is to each their own. Every business, everybody has their different requirements. So we'll kind of touch upon that as we go through. Now, how can your tech make you more money? So I mentioned about how, of course, I need to make more business, or I need to charge more money, or I need to do more. That's how I make money, sure. But there are ways that technology can make it that much easier or quicker. And these are going to be the themes that we kind of go through with the different tech that we talk about. So first thing is measuring productivity. Productivity is your output per unit of time. So if a person takes 5 hours to complete a certain task, that is basically the measurement of productivity to complete that particular task. How is that time across your resources being spent? I think productivity is especially becoming a hot topic with people working remotely, because you shouldn't be measuring productivity based on, oh, the office is busy today, phones are ringing, people are doing things. It should be based off of quantitative information. So technology can definitely help to collect the type of information you need to measure how productive your staff is. And then you could see, okay, how is this time being allocated? Is it the best that it should be? Should I allocate my resources differently or to different activities? Then we get into efficiency. So efficiency is related to a specific task. Can you achieve the same result of a task in a lot less time? So the simplest example is if you have 100 bills to get out, you could either draft each one of those bills individually, or you can use some sort of bulk invoicing tool. So these are the types of tips we'll be talking about. Both of them will have the exact same results. Your client will get an invoice regardless, but how you go about it is differently. So prioritizing efficiency of each task is also really important, and technology and with automation plays an incredible role with that. Also keep in mind accuracy. So there's a few things that factor into accuracy. One is when we talk about time, only what you bill is actually going to get paid. So if you miss items, you're not going to make money on those. Or if you record the wrong amounts because you're entering something in 3 different places, that's going to impact your reporting and your perception of what your financials are. So how you utilize your tools will help with that as well. And lastly is that database decision making. So I kind of touched a little bit about that when I talked about productivity. Actually, it's all of the above that influence this. I think it's important to know that as a business, setting short or long-term goals and making decisions to follow those goals will get you on the right path for growth. So if you want to take on more clients, if you want to go into a new practice area, if you want to get more done in less time, having that data as to how productive your staff is, how efficient their tasks are being completed, is our information correct or being double checked, and how is that going? All of that factors into what you will continue to do the same way or choose to do it a little bit differently. So this will be kind of the theme of the different areas that we talk about throughout. So now let's get into how to leverage your tools just a little bit more effectively. Like I said, you should first evaluate what you currently have. I know so many businesses that they have tools that are not being leveraged to their full potential. So learn about your technology, whether it's you or somebody else in your firm. Whoever's the most tech savvy, I usually say, people who have a passion for this tend to have that curiosity to learn more. Maybe find a designated person to really understand the full functionality of the software that you use. All right, so we're going to cover the different, when we talked about the front office and back office, we're going to go through each one of those areas and talk about, how tech can help you in each of those. So the first is billing and payments. When we're talking solely about billing and payments, it is each of your timekeepers, which could be attorneys, associates, paralegals, anybody who bills for their time, entering it, that time, tracking it, recording it, as well as costs. I think very often costs kind of get forgotten because it's not an hourly fee, but if you pay for a cost out of pocket and don't get reimbursed, that impacts your wallet just as much. So it's both your time and cost entry, invoicing, which was one of the examples that I gave earlier, getting those bills out, and then collections, which is either receiving payment or chasing after a client that is not sending you payment. This is probably the area of most automation. There's so much that technology can do for you in the billing segment. And if you're not doing this currently, definitely something to keep in mind. So we're first going to focus on time and costs. A few things to think about. One is mobile access. I used to have to teach about the value of mobile access a year or so ago and earlier, obviously. I don't think I need to really explain that anymore. Being able to access your system, whatever it is that you're tracking your billing, and each timekeeper to be able to access that system is critical because you don't know where you are. But another point is like in your hand mobile access. So a lot of cloud applications, a lot of the tools you probably adopted over the last year have mobile apps. Try to use them as much as possible, mainly because real-time entry will ensure that your information is accurate, not just the time that you spent, but also the description of what you're doing. If you can enter it, you know, while you're in a cab going from point A to point B, or, you know, while you're waiting for your next call, right in the moment will definitely increase that accuracy. Cost recovery. So when I'm talking about recovery, there are two types of costs. You may have like a filing fee for John Smith that has to be reimbursed, or, which we'll talk about a little bit more on the accounting side when we get to that, or you may have cost recovery, which is more of your indirect costs, photocopies, printing, you know, maybe like a courier or postage meter that you use. Those are items that, again, you have to decide as a business if you want to be reimbursed for those. But if you do, there are a lot of printer systems, for instance, that have a software that can spit out a file that says, this is how many copies you did for this person, or this is how much printing you did for this person. Or even like if you are using a postage meter and sending stuff out directly from your office, again, there are software that can give you data that you could use to bill more accurately without entering that individually. Real-time timers. It's a convenience. You know, if I'm in my billing tool or in my mobile app and I could just click a timer, it's less that I need to think about, but also gives you that accurate time. You may think you're on the phone for 20 minutes and you find out, nope, actually it was closer to an hour. So having that available is always good. And passive time tracking. So if you or anybody in your firm struggles tremendously with getting time in the system just because time gets away from them literally during the day and they end up figuring it out at the end of the month, there are tools and software that you can install on your devices, so your phone, your computer, and it will track your activity. I know that sounds a bit creepy, but it's more so like you spent 2 hours in this Word document, or you spent 3 hours in Outlook or on this particular web page. So you could either use that as a primary method of collecting data, or you can use that to just cross-reference what you've done throughout the day. Because often you're like, wow, I've been busy all day, but what did I do with my time? It's kind of hard to figure that out sometimes. So that's great for the people who just really, really struggle. They can collect kind of that audit of what you've been doing. And sometimes they integrate with a billing tool too. So you can actually just post time directly from there as well. Integration with your daily tools. So all of your different activities that you do, your meetings, your daily tasks, your interactions, could be with the client or not. You want to make sure that you're billing for them if they're billable. So if you're using like Outlook or you're using Google Apps or anything like that, you want to first ensure that everybody in the firm is using the same tools. I think that's a big challenge that many businesses face, is you could have, you know, one person using Google Tasks, another person using Outlook Tasks, another person using pen and paper. And it makes it really difficult, which we'll talk about with collaborating, because that's a big part of this too. It makes it really hard to collaborate, but also really hard to make sure all of that is accounted for from a billing side of things. You're leaving it to that one person to track things the way they should, as opposed to it having a little bit more visibility. So that's time and costs. When it comes to invoicing, it's pretty straightforward. The example that I gave before, automated invoice generation. If you are drafting bills individually, I don't think it's necessary. I know a lot of times businesses say, well, I like to have that personal touch in that in the invoice. Think about the actual value of what you're doing. Now, in some situations, you may actually need to put a very important note. There are templates that can do that for you. The whole purpose or the whole reason you could do batch invoicing is due to templates. So use a billing tool that has invoice templates, design those templates to best fit your needs. And I'm fairly certain that all of you can find a way to do that utilizing a template, so you can click a button and get all your bills out. To clients, getting those bills out. Now, could be you may be printing and mailing them. That is very hard to do efficiently, as we know. You know, if you're manually stuffing envelopes, there's hardly anything you can do to automate that. But you can send it by email in a batch. That's one great thing about email. Click a button and you can send an email to 50 people. And a lot of billing tools allow you to do that, even though the messaging and the invoice is different per person, you could do them all at the same time. So huge time saver there, and immediate delivery, which is always good for quicker payment. And secure electronic sharing. So a lot of convenience. This is one thing to keep in mind. Convenience to your client is a hot commodity right now. The expectations of services and what they provide is very different. They're looking for convenience, for online options, for things that require less interaction. And there are client portals, there are document apps that allow online sharing, which just makes it more convenient to share that information. It makes it more secure because those are usually encrypted tools. And it is something that is a value add to your service. If you could say to your client, hey, we have a secure client portal, they're like, oh, that's really cool. I actually really like that idea. So something to keep in mind if you're not using it already. Like I said, practice management apps, especially the cloud apps, include that, but there are document apps that have that functionality as well. And then collections. So replenishment. So there's a saying, you don't want to throw good money after bad money. Or is it bad money after good money? Either way, you don't want to waste time on money you may never collect. And I know that sounds very negative, but collections are actually incredibly important, but you don't want to spend an exorbitant amount of time on it. You want to be smart about it. It's a very tedious process. Most people don't want to deal with following up with their clients, but you can leverage your tool. Use your tool as your collections agency. A lot of billing tools have automated replenishment. So if there is a batch invoicing, usually there is a batch reminder. Could be a notification, likely comes with the invoice. It's something that often you can schedule and don't even have to worry about. There's also a function called dunning. That's basically what that's called, when you can schedule reminders to go out. See what you have available or what other tools are offering to automate that process, because if it's not automated, it's not just time consuming, but very often staff just doesn't do it. Honestly, it's a horrible thought, but it's put off, thinking, oh, they'll pay me eventually. And we all know that that's not how it works. Integrate with online payment processors. So again, doing things online is now the standard. It is not a plus, it is expected. So being able to send an invoice and have a link for somebody to pay online is going to be the new normal. That is through using some sort of merchant provider who provides a credit card processing service to you. Very often you can have a link on your invoice, a link on your website, a link on, if you do like a client portal type thing, a link in there. And that allows for quicker payment. It is that, again, added convenience and value to your client, and also will add to efficiency, because if these tools integrate with your billing, it will input that payment for you without you having to manually enter that, which is pretty nice. And reminders. Oh, actually, I got these flipped. So before I was talking about invoice reminders, getting those dunning out for your invoices. That's what this is referring to. The first point was replenishment. So that's actually more for retainers. Same concept. One is for retainers, one is for past due balances. The concept of evergreen retainers keeps you in the green, literally. It makes sure that there's money there to actually apply to upcoming bills. If you run out of a retainer, it's just like you never had it in the first place, because you're going to have to chase your client for that. So look for ways to be aware of what somebody has in retainer. B, some tools do have kind of a low threshold that can notify you, hey, this person's low. C, automate those reminders. This is usually very much a legal billing functionality because it is retainer management. But if you're using a legal practice management tool, see what's available for replenishment of those retainers. Easy replenishment that doesn't take too much work. For your matter accounting, so moving from billing to accounting, you do have these different functions. So, and these are somewhat unique to law firms. That's what's the important thing about accounting. It's not just business accounting. You have to think of your matter as well. Your matter ledgers, which is typically, it's your invoice payments, but also trust transactions, recording those client costs, trust transactions, as I mentioned, and compliance reporting. A lot of this has specific requirements for how they should be handled, different than your regular firm expenses. So how can your tech help with that? First is having MatterDriven billing and accounting records. The matter accounting aspect of a law firm, I mean, everything really should be matter-centric. That goes for your events, your task tracking, your documents, everything, but especially your billing and accounting. So that way it's easier to plan billing for the client. It's an easier way to service your client if they have questions about their bills or etc. You could also see the profitability per matter very easily if you have both of these somewhat consolidated, and you can better collaborate with the rest of your team. So if that's not already happening, I think the billing part typically most law firms have by matter, but the accounting, you need to make sure that's by matter as well. Bulk trust transfer. So this is referring to if you have, let's say it's the end of the month and you have, I'll just pick a number, 20 clients that have money in Trust Bank A, and they all have invoices. And you're not going to cut, some of you may do 20 checks or 20 transfers. You can do that. But some of us are like, I'm not going to do 20 transfers. I'm going to do just one. Like, why am I going to do that? One is fine. It's convenient for you. It's a time saver for you, but your records have to reflect that properly. You need to be able to use a tool. And again, this is going to be some sort of legal tool or something that includes trust accounting, practice management tool with trust accounting, where you can enter, and it is available. I know CosmoLex does have it, other tools do as well, is to have say, okay, I'm going to do this one transfer for $10,000. It impacts these different matter invoices in this way, so that each of their ledgers are impacted separately for different amounts, but your bank just shows the overall full amount. It sounds simple, but often people just say, oh, $10,000 bank A to bank B, and don't have that matter record. And that's a huge compliance issue. So make sure you look for tools that have a bulk trust type of function. Trust safeguards. Yeah, I mean, it's a requirement for you to make sure you're not overdrafting, commingling funds, etc. So either you take that responsibility on yourself with whoever's handling your trust accounting to make sure they're doing that appropriately, or use a tool that has the safeguards that won't allow you to do those things. So this is less about efficiency, more about compliance. And compliance, like I said, factors into, is your business going to remain open, and also your reputation as a law firm. And online payments. I know with online payments, we often think about invoices. You could do it for trust accounts as well. If you're often receiving retainers, look into merchant providers that support trust accounts. They need to support it correctly though. Don't just use PayPal and assume that that's going to work for your trust account. There are legal merchant providers that you can, they will specifically let you know how they work uniquely with trust accounts. One of the biggest items is, how are their fees handled? The fees for merchant processing cannot come out of the trust account, period. So that's one of the de facto standards if you're looking for a merchant provider. And then compliance reporting. I think, having a listing of trust balances, when was the last activity on a file, three-way reconciliation reporting, all of those are things that auditors look for, and being able to have an easy generation and proof of your compliance is critical. You don't want to be that firm where you get called for an audit, they say, we need all this information, and that it becomes all consuming because you don't have it, or you don't have it in an organized fashion to present to them. So that too is a legal specific tech function. For firm accounting, you have tracking of your payables, the bills that you have, rent, utilities, etc., reconciling of bank accounts, your tax reporting at the end of the year, and your overall business analysis. How can you do better as a business? And again, something I probably should have mentioned at the start, you likely, if you're a one-person show, you may be doing all this yourself, but if you have staff that's handling all of this, the key is awareness, knowing how they're doing these things, is there a way to do it better, and kind of just opening up that conversation. So for accounting, or firm accounting, I should say, bank feeds and statement imports. This is not unique to law firms. It is purely an accounting function. Many accounting tools have that functionality to connect directly to your, say, TD bank account, and it will feed in what transactions took place that day. It is helpful for your credit cards, biggest help, because if you have multiple, especially multiple credit cards at a firm, ensuring that those costs are captured and that they're booked to the clients if they need to be reimbursed, those items get missed so easily. So that's one, I think, great advantage to using a feed. And then statement imports are more so if you don't want to use a live feed for whatever reason, see if your tools have a way of importing a statement at the end of the month. I have my credit card statement from my online banking account. Can I import it directly here and then handle those items and make sure nothing's missed? Automated reconciliation. So there are very manual ways of reconciling, which is literally pen and paper. And with software, there are ways to do it in a little bit more of a electronic fashion. There are tools where you can upload a statement and it'll say, this is what the bank has, this is what you have. It may suggest matches. A lot of times bank feeds will do that too, suggest matches for you to confirm. And then you can reconcile that way. Some people love it. Some people prefer the manual way, completely up to you, but it can help if you're a highly transactional firm. I know a lot of title agencies, real estate especially, that may do thousands of transactions a day or a week. Having these feeds just to help with that, you're still confirming, but to help with the legwork can save a lot of time. And then your data collection and analysis. So the type of reporting you have, this is more so about what information do you want to collect about your business? How much fee a particular lawyer is bringing in? Maybe the profit by practice area. So not just fee, but overall profit, fee minus expenses. Maybe your expenses by office location if you have multiple locations. So think about metrics, things that are important that you want answers to, questions that you have, like how profitable is this case, for instance. If you have these questions, then collect the information in a way that can assist with that. To get this type of reporting, though, you do have to have your billing and accounting together. If they're segregated, it becomes very difficult to get this reporting built in. You could do it manually through Excel spreadsheets, of course, but to get it a little bit more automated, you would have to have your billing and accounting together. So that's something to keep in mind. And then my last point is your loose ends. So your day-to-day, and this can vary by firm, but in general, you have your appointments with your clients, your to-do lists or your tasks, communication with your clients, and just your overall collaboration. Your day-to-day, how is that going? And I'm sure for many of you, over the past year, this has evolved. You had to figure out new ways of doing things. And a lot of the points that I'm going to cover here are things that most businesses took on in the last year. One, which I mentioned before, is consistency across your daily tools. I use the example of task management. If you want to do collaborative task management, everybody needs to be using the same tool. Figure out what tool that is. Everybody needs to be on the same one, because if everybody's doing it differently, there's no way to collaborate effectively. And you should think, even if you have everybody in the office right now, you should not limit yourself to that. I think we've all learned that lesson. Whatever tools and processes you have should work regardless as to where any individual person is located. Can you collaborate effectively if this person is home or working from traveling or whatever it may be? Utilize templates. So I have a few examples of templates here. Letters that you're drafting, documents that you use frequently, checklists for common, maybe client intake type of tasks or certain practice area tasks, canned responses for emails. Anywhere you can standardize language, utilize a template, because templates are what allow for automation. Generating 10 letters at once, generating 50 invoices at once, being able to launch a checklist without having to type it in manually, being able to send out 100 emails because you have these canned responses. It's not fitting for every situation, but think of the situations that it will be and find a way to templatize it. That standardization is required for anything to be automated with whatever tool you're using. Online collaborative tools. So I have some examples here. Task management, I already mentioned, to be able to have accountability no matter where you are. Document drafting tools. I personally use Google Apps a lot, extensively. Office 365 also has really great drafting tools where you can all be in a document at the same time, working on it together. Helps with efficiency tremendously, but also the task gets done that much better because you're working on it together. And having the ability to comment, chat, or just work together and communicate online. Shift all of that to online instead of just looking at water cooler chats or walking to somebody's desk. The landscape of business has changed. So you just need to make that shift for your day-to-day. And my last point is incorporate virtual meetings. I know that we've all done this over the past year. It is not short-term. There are ways in which virtual meetings can help your business tremendously. One can be to elevate phone calls. So if there are people that you normally just had a phone call with, can that be elevated? Can you have a better relationship if some of those are through video? Or in-person meetings. Can you simplify some in-person meetings, maybe certain touch points with your client, to a video meeting? Not everything's appropriate for a video meeting, but think it through. Say, hey, in what situations is it more appropriate and actually going to save everybody time and be an added convenience, but we get the same, if not better, result? So definitely think about ways to incorporate that long term. I think it's just going to become the standard with any business client interactions. All right, so that covers our topic today. Of course, if you have any questions, I don't know, those of you who are familiar with CosmoLex, this is kind of what we have to offer. We are a cloud-based legal practice management tool that provides everything you see here and really everything that we talked about today. So questions, you can definitely feel free to reach out.
Great. Thank you so much. That is all the time that we're going to have for today. I would like to thank our sponsor, CosmoLex, and everyone for attending our webinars today. If you're curious about future webinars, you can check out the ABA LTRC page or follow our Twitter at LTRC for updates. I would also like to thank Erica for presenting today. You can keep up with CosmoLex at CosmoLex Legal on Twitter or cosmolex.com. We will now conclude the webinar. Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.